Hello there. So glad you're here. Go ahead and find your favorite spot in bed, the one that just feels right. Let your head get nice and heavy on the pillow. You don't have to hold it up anymore. Just let it sink in. Take a nice, slow breath in and let it all out. There's no pressure here. You don't have to fall asleep. In fact, don't even try. The only thing you need to do for the next little while is listen to the sound of my voice. That's it. It's that simple. Your mind might still be buzzing from the day, thinking about things you said or things you need to do tomorrow. That's okay. Let it buzz. Don't fight it. Think of your mind as a little engine that's been running all day, and it just needs some time to cool down. My job is just to talk in a nice, boring way, to give that little engine something simple to listen to as it slows down. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about a man with a very big mustache and some even bigger ideas. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche. But don't worry, this isn't a history lesson. There isn't going to be a test. You don't need to remember any of this. The whole idea tonight is to talk about strength, but not the kind of strength you see in movies. Not about lifting cars or being the loudest person in the room. We're going to talk about a different kind of strength. A quiet kind. A sleepy kind. The kind of strength that's been inside of you all along. Maybe just hiding or waiting for everything to get quiet so it could finally be felt. This is going to be one long, rambling story. So if your mind wanders off, that's perfect. If you miss a part because you were drifting away, that's even better. That's the whole point. So, just for now, let the day go. Whatever happened today, it's over. Whatever needs to be done tomorrow can wait. This time is just for you. For getting comfortable. For getting quiet. And for finding that gentle strength that's already yours. So let's get started. You know that feeling. The one that settles deep into your bones at the end of a long day. It's not a bad feeling, not necessarily. It's just heavy. As you're lying here, feel that weight for a moment. Feel it in your head on the pillow, in your shoulders, in your arms and your legs as they sink ever so slightly into the mattress. It's the feeling of gravity tucking you in. This weight is the story of your day. Think of it like a fine layer of dust that has settled on you. Each little interaction, each thought, each worry, each thing you saw on a screen is a single speck of dust. By itself, a speck of dust is nothing. It's weightless. But after a whole day, millions of them create a soft, gray blanket. And that blanket has a weight. A long time ago, a philosopher with a truly magnificent mustache thought a lot about this weight. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, and he saw that almost everyone he met was carrying a weight far heavier than a little bit of dust. He said that we often live our lives like a camel in the desert. Think of a camel. A strong, patient, good animal. Its whole job is to carry things for others. It kneels down in the morning, and its owner loads it up with heavy bags, boxes, and all sorts of supplies. The camel takes on the weight without question. It carries whatever it is told to carry. It believes that its value comes from how much it can bear. A good camel is a camel with a very, very heavy load. Nietzsche said this is how most of us begin our lives. We are the camel. We kneel down, and we let the world load us up. Our parents, our teachers, our friends, our jobs, they all have things they want us to carry. They give us their rules, their ideas of what is right and what is wrong. They give us their expectations. They tell us, you should be this, or you must do that. And because we are a good camel, we say, okay, we take on the weight. We carry the big heavy bag labeled success. We carry the awkward, lumpy box of other people's opinions. We carry the heavy, sloshing water skin of family duty. We carry it all, and for a long time, we might even be proud of how much we can carry. Look at me, we think. I am so strong. I am carrying so many important things. But as we walk through the desert of our lives, the sun gets hot and the path gets long. And the weight doesn't get any lighter. It just gets more and more familiar. That heavy feeling you're feeling right now, as you lie here in the quiet dark, that is the feeling of the camel at the end of the day. It's the feeling of having carried the load. You've done your duty. You've walked the miles you were supposed to walk. And now, you have finally been allowed to kneel down in the sand and rest. You can feel where the straps of the load have been digging in. You can feel the ache in your muscles. And as you rest here, as the camel rests, maybe a strange thought enters your mind for the very first time. A quiet, little question. What if I didn't have to carry all of this? What is all this stuff, anyway? And who said I had to carry it in the first place? That little question, that is where our story really begins. That little question, rising up as the camel rests in the cool desert night. What if I didn't have to carry all of this? It's a scary question for the camel, because for its whole life, carrying the load has been its entire purpose. It's all it knows. Let's think about that for a minute. Let's look a little closer at what's actually in that heavy pack. From the time we are very, very small, we are learning. We learn by watching. We learn by listening. And we learn what we are supposed to do to be a good person, a good student, a good friend. It's like we are given an invisible instruction manual, and the first chapter is called How to Be a Good Camel. The rules in this manual are all the shoulds and should nots of life. Think about one of the first things we're taught. You should be nice. This is a heavy box in the camel's pack. It's a very well-intentioned box, full of good things like kindness and sharing. But it can also get very heavy. Inside that box, we start to store all the times we said yes when we really felt like saying no. All the times we smiled when we were actually feeling sad or annoyed. All the times we put someone else's comfort ahead of our own, even when it made us feel tired. We add these moments to the be nice box, one by one, and it gets heavier every year. Then there's another big, heavy bag in the pack. This one is labeled, You should be successful. What does that even mean? The world gives us a lot of answers. It means you should have a certain kind of job. You should make a certain amount of money. You should live in a certain kind of place. It's a bag full of checklists and goals that someone else wrote for us. And we carry it, trying our best to tick off all the boxes, even if we're not sure we're the one who wanted to tick them in the first place. This bag is heavy because it's full of comparing ourselves to other people. Every time we look at someone else's life and think, I should be more like that, the bag gets a little heavier. And there are so many other things in the load. There's a heavy jug of water called, Don't disappoint the people you love. This one sloshes around and can throw you off balance. You carry it so carefully, trying not to spill a single drop. You make choices not based on what you want, but on what you think will make your family or your friends happy. There are smaller, stranger things in there, too. Old rules you don't even remember learning. Don't be too loud. Don't ask for too much. Don't be selfish. Don't stand out. These are like little, sharp-edged rocks that dig into your back. You don't even know where they came from, but they're there, and they've been there for as long as you can remember. The strangest thing about the camel's load is that after a while, you forget you're even carrying it. The weight just becomes a part of you. The ache in your shoulders just feels like the way shoulders are supposed to feel. The tiredness in your legs just feels like the price of walking. You stop seeing the load as a collection of choices and rules. It all just blends together into one big, heavy thing called my life or who I am. As you lie here, feeling the weight of your own body, you can almost feel the camel's load. You can feel the memory of it. It's the tension in your jaw. It's the tightness in your back. It's the quiet buzzing in your mind of all the things you should have done today or all the things you must do tomorrow. But for our camel, resting in the vast, silent desert, something is changing. Looking up at the endless stars, the desert feels so big and the camel feels so small. And its load, for the first time, doesn't feel important. It just feels heavy. The pride the camel once felt for carrying so much is starting to fade. And all that's left is the ache, the deep, deep tiredness, and that little question, which is now getting just a little bit louder. What if, in the silence of the desert, that question has a lot of room to echo? And in that echo, a new feeling begins to stir. A feeling that doesn't feel like patience and doesn't feel like duty. It feels a little bit like a rumble, a low growl, deep in its chest. The desert at night is one of the quietest places on earth. As our camel rests, the silence is so deep it's like a physical thing. It's a silence that absorbs sound, a silence that allows you to finally hear what's going on inside. With the busy noise of the world gone, the camel can hear its own slow, steady heartbeat, a quiet drum in the vastness. It can feel the cool desert air fill its lungs and then leave again. And in that profound stillness, it can feel something else. That low rumble, that deep vibration in its chest. It's not a sound, not yet. It's a feeling. Imagine the lowest string on a cello, a note so deep you feel it more than you hear it. That is the feeling. It's not the heavy, tired feeling from carrying the load. That was a dead weight. This is different. This feeling is alive. It has a warmth to it, a slow-burning energy. It's the feeling of a fire that has been reduced to embers, glowing red in the dark, and a gentle wind is now, ever so slowly, starting to blow on them. The camel has lived its whole life guided by one great virtue: patience. It has been a master of endurance. It has mistaken the ability to carry a heavy load for a long time as the definition of strength. But this new feeling, this warmth, this rumble, it is not patient. It is the opposite of patience. It is a powerful, sacred, and holy impatience. It is the deep, slow, irresistible force of a tree root growing through solid rock. It doesn't rush, but it will not be stopped. It is the life inside saying, "I have been down in the dark long enough. It is time to grow towards the sun." This, Nietzsche says, is where a miracle happens. But it is not a loud, flashy miracle. It is a quiet, internal one. The spirit, weary of its old shape, begins to change. The tired, overloaded, ever-patient camel begins a transformation into something new, something it had forgotten was even a part of it. It transforms into a lion. Think of a lion. Not a sad lion in a circus, but a lion in its own kingdom. The lion carries nothing on its back. The lion does not ask for permission. Its own power is its permission. It walks where it wants to walk. It sleeps when it wants to sleep. Its strength is not measured by what it can endure for others, but by its own freedom to exist. The lion is the king of its own, lonely, beautiful desert. That rumble inside the camel's chest is the lion waking from a sleep that has lasted for years. The camel feels its own body, and for the first time, it feels the lion within it. It feels its spine, which has been curved for so long under the weight of the packs, and it feels a deep, powerful longing to straighten it, to stand tall. It feels the strong muscles in its legs, and it understands they are not just for plodding one foot after another in a straight line. They are for leaping, for running, for choosing a new direction. And the lion, looking through the camel's eyes, sees the heavy load lying there on the sand. The familiar boxes of shoulds, the heavy bags of musts. It sees the jug of what will people think, and the rocks of old mistakes. And to the lion, these things do not look respectable or necessary. They look like a cage, and the lion will not live in a cage. So the rumble in its chest gathers. The warmth of the embers begins to glow brighter. It is the moment of decision. To create a new life, to build a new world for oneself, one must first be a destroyer. One must clear the old ground. The lion takes a deep, slow breath, filling its lungs with the clean, cold air of the desert night. And it lets out a roar. But this roar is not a sound you make with your throat. It is not something anyone else needs to hear. It is a silent roar, a great shout that happens deep inside your own soul. It is the sound of a choice being made. It is the sound of an old agreement being broken. It is a roar that says, simply and with all of its might, "No, no, I will no longer carry this weight just because it was given to me. No, I will no longer walk a path that someone else chose for me. No, I will not let the fear of what others think be my guide. No to the guilt that keeps me small. No to the shame that keeps me quiet. No to the belief that my only worth is in how much I can carry. No, no, no. This sacred no is not an act of anger. It is an act of love. It is the spirit loving itself enough to clear a space for it to live. The roar echoes in the silent desert of the self, and the old, heavy rules and duties shatter like glass. And then a new kind of silence. A silence that is not heavy, but light. A silence that is not full of unspoken duties, but full of empty space. The lion stands alone in the vast desert, the broken pieces of its old life scattered on the sand around it. There is nothing left to carry. There is no one left to tell it where to go. It is completely and utterly free. And it is a little bit terrifying. But it is also breathtakingly beautiful. That roar, that deep, silent no, it wasn't an act of anger or hate. It was an act of profound self-respect. Nietzsche thought this was one of the most important and difficult things a person could ever learn to do. To say a sacred no. Why is it sacred? Why that word? Because your time is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your peace of mind is the most sacred thing of all. Think of your inner world, your true self, as a small, quiet, beautiful garden that you are in charge of. For a long, long time, as the camel, you left the gate wide open. You let anyone and everyone come in. You let them trample the flowers with their opinions. You let them plant weeds with their expectations. You let them drain the little pond with their demands. You did this because you thought being a good gardener meant letting everyone enjoy the garden. But now, as the lion, you understand. A good gardener knows that the garden's first and most important need is to be protected. The sacred no is not a wall you build to keep everyone out. It is a fence, a simple, gentle fence with a gate, and you are the one who decides when to open it. Saying no is simply the act of closing the gate when you need to. It's you, the gardener, saying, the garden needs to rest now. It needs quiet. It needs peace to grow. This is a very different kind of strength, isn't it? The camel's strength was in how much it could carry, how much it could endure. The lion's strength is in what it can refuse to carry. It's the strength of subtraction, the strength of letting go. And the lion starts to practice this new strength in small ways at first. It's a muscle it hasn't used before, and it feels a little strange. Maybe someone asks the lion for a favor it doesn't have the energy to do. The old camel would have said yes, instantly, the weight of guilt already settling on its back. But the lion pauses. It feels that old, familiar urge to say yes. But then it feels the new rumble in its chest. And it closes the gate. It says, no, I'm sorry, I can't. And the world doesn't end. The other person is okay. And the lion feels a strange sense of lightness. It has kept a little piece of its own energy for itself. It has protected its garden. But this sacred no is much, much deeper than just saying no to other people. The most powerful use of this roar is the no you say to the voices inside your own head. As you lie here, right now, your mind might be trying to hand you some heavy rocks from that old backpack. It might be trying to give you a worry about tomorrow. The camel would have taken it, held it, and examined it from every angle. The lion says no. It says, no, mind. We are not doing that right now. Right now is for rest. It simply turns its great head and looks away. Your mind might try to remind you of something you regret, something from the past that makes you cringe. The camel would have let that memory play on a loop, feeling the same old shame over and over again. The lion says no. No, mind. That story is over. We are not watching that movie tonight. It refuses to carry the weight of a past it cannot change. This is the lion's true power. It is the ability to become the master of its own attention. It decides what thoughts get to come into the garden and which ones have to stay outside the fence. It's not about fighting your thoughts or wrestling with them. That is the camel's way. The lion's way is simpler. It just withdraws its attention. It says, no, you do not get my energy. And it turns its focus back to the feeling of the breath, back to the feeling of the blanket, back to the deep, quiet peace of the present moment. This is an act of deep kindness to yourself. It is the ultimate act of letting go. The roar of the lion is the sound of you giving yourself permission. Permission to not have it all figured out. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to rest. Permission to just be here, now, in this bed, without carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. And as the lion stands there, in the clean, empty space it has created, it feels a profound sense of peace. The heavy load is gone. The ground is clear. And for the first time in a very long time, it can feel the cool breeze of freedom on its face. After the roar, there is a silence. But it is a completely different kind of silence from the one the camel knew. The camel's silence was heavy. It was the silence of endurance, the quiet of a creature with its head bowed, simply putting one foot in front of the other. This new silence is light. It is vast. It is empty. The lion stands in the middle of the desert, and for the first time, it feels no weight on its back. There is no heavy pack. There are no straps digging into its shoulders. It takes a step, and the step feels strange, almost too easy. It feels light, like an astronaut taking a first step on the moon. At first, this feeling is wonderful. It is pure relief. The chronic ache that the camel had lived with for so long is just gone. The lion stretches its back, stands up to its full height, and feels the freedom in its own body. This is it. This is what it was longing for. But then, the silence continues. The minutes stretch on. The sun begins to rise, casting long, strange shadows across the empty sand. And a new feeling starts to creep in. A feeling of now what? The camel, for all its troubles, always had a purpose. Its purpose was clear: carry the load. It had a path to follow, given to it by its master. It always knew which direction to walk. The goal was simply to get to the end of the day, deliver the goods, and rest. It was a hard life, but it was a simple life. The lion has no load to carry. It has no master to obey. It has no path to follow. It stands in the middle of a vast, open desert, and it can go in any direction it chooses. North, south, east, west. 1,000 different paths are available. And when you can go anywhere, sometimes you end up going nowhere at all. The freedom that felt so wonderful just a moment ago now feels a little disorienting, a little scary. The emptiness starts to feel less like freedom and more like just emptiness. The lion might even feel a strange, quiet longing for the old weight. It's a strange trick the mind plays. We get so used to our burdens that when they're gone, we almost miss them. The weight was heavy, yes, but it was also familiar. It was predictable. This new lightness, this total freedom, has no rules. There is no instruction manual for being a lion. The lion's great power was the power of destruction. Its sacred no was the tool it used to clear the ground, to tear down the old prison of rules and duties. But a lion is not a builder. It doesn't know how to plant a garden. It only knows how to clear the weeds. And so it waits. It walks through this new, empty world, feeling the strange combination of lightness and confusion. It is in a space between worlds. The old world of the camel is gone forever, but the new world has not yet been born. This is a very important place to be. It is the place of pure possibility. Nietzsche believed that you have to pass through this empty desert. You have to be brave enough to stand in the silence, to tolerate the feeling of I don't know. You have to let go of the need for a map. As you lie here, in the quiet of your room, you are in your own little desert. The noise of the day has been roared away. The duties and the shoulds have been put down, and you are left in this gentle, peaceful, empty space. You don't need to know what comes next. You don't need a plan. All you have to do is rest here, in the quiet, in the stillness. Because in this strange, beautiful, and empty silence, something new is about to grow. The work of the lion is done, and a new transformation, the final and most joyful one, is quietly waiting to begin. The lion walks through its empty desert. The sun is warm, the air is clean, and there are no burdens to be found anywhere. And yet, the lion is restless. It paces back and forth, its great, powerful muscles tensing for a fight that never comes. Its whole identity was built on that fight. It was the great destroyer, the one who roared no. But now, all the old enemies are gone. The prison walls have been torn down, and the lion finds itself the king of an empty lot. A king needs a kingdom. A warrior needs a war. The lion's strength was the strength of opposition. But what do you do when there is nothing left to oppose? The lion's great, noble face is set in a serious frown. It is thinking very, very hard. What is my purpose now? What should I do? What is the meaning of all this freedom? It tries to solve this problem the way it solved the last one, with power, with intensity. But you cannot roar your way into a new purpose. You cannot fight your way to happiness. The lion's old tools are useless here. And so, it grows tired. Not the heavy tiredness of the camel, but the frustrated tiredness of a creature who has run out of ideas. It finally stops pacing. It lies down in the warm sand, puts its great head on its paws, and just watches. It watches a little beetle drawing a squiggly line in the sand. The beetle isn't trying to make a great work of art. It's just walking. It watches a cloud drift across the blue sky, changing its shape from a dragon to a fish to nothing at all. It listens to the sound of the wind, a sound that has no meaning, a song with no words. And as the lion lies there, watching the world do its thing, something inside it begins to soften. The deep, serious frown on its brow relaxes. The tension in its mighty shoulders starts to melt away. For the first time since its great roar, the lion simply is. It is not fighting anything. It is not looking for a purpose. It is just a creature lying on the warm sand under the big sky. This is the next miracle. Nietzsche says the spirit must transform one last time. It must become something even stronger and more powerful than the lion. The spirit must become a child. The lion has to forget. It has to forget its great and important struggle. It has to forget its own seriousness. Being serious was the camel's business. Being a warrior was the lion's business. The child's business is something else entirely. The child's business is play. This is the great secret. The final transformation doesn't happen through a great act of will. It happens through a great act of letting go. The lion simply forgets how to be a lion. The heavy weight of its own freedom, the burden of having to figure it all out, just dissolves. And in its place, the spirit of the child is born. Think of a small child playing on the beach. The child doesn't need a reason to play. It doesn't ask, what is the purpose of building this sandcastle? The building of the sandcastle is the purpose. The joy is in the doing. The child picks up a stick and it becomes a magic wand. It draws a circle in the sand and it becomes a secret kingdom. The child is not a carrier of meaning or a destroyer of meaning. The child is a creator of meaning. The lion's great power was its sacred no. The child's power is even greater. It is the power of a sacred yes. It says yes to the moment. Yes to the sand and the sun. Yes to starting something new just for the fun of it. The child represents a new beginning, a fresh start. It is innocence, but it is not the innocence of the camel, which didn't know any better. It is a powerful, earned innocence. It is the innocence you find on the other side of a great struggle. It is the wisdom to know that the most serious thing in the world is to remember how to play. The child stands where the lion stood, in the middle of the vast, quiet desert. But the child does not see an empty wasteland. It does not see a confusing and purposeless void. The child looks around and sees the biggest, most wonderful sandbox in the entire world. The lion was looking for a purpose. The camel was following a purpose given to it. The child does something much more magical. It creates a purpose just for fun and just for now. The child sees the endless sand, the warm sun, and the bright blue sky, and it has an idea. I will build a castle. Why? The camel would need a reason. I will build a castle because it is my duty, and a good camel builds good castles. The lion would need a reason. I will build a castle to prove my strength and to show that this desert is mine. The child needs no reason. I will build a castle because I feel like it. This is the sacred yes in action. It is the simple, joyful agreement with a creative impulse that comes from within. There is no goal of impressing anyone. There is no great, serious meaning behind it. The meaning is the joy of doing it. So the child gets to work. It runs to where the sand is wet. It feels the cool, damp sand squish between its fingers and toes. It is completely absorbed in the feeling. It's not thinking, am I doing this right? Is this a productive use of my time? It is just feeling the sand. It starts to build. It piles the wet sand up. It makes walls and towers. It finds a beautiful, smooth, white shell, and it becomes the great front gate. It finds a piece of green seaweed, and that becomes a flag for the highest tower. The child is completely lost in the act of creation. The whole world disappears. There is only the castle. This is the art of play. It is the ability to be completely present in what you are doing, not for any reward, but for the simple, pure joy of the process itself. The child doesn't have a perfect blueprint. It makes it up as it goes along. A tower collapses? That's okay. The child just laughs and builds something new in its place. The walls are crooked? The child thinks they look more interesting that way. There is no pressure. There is no fear of failure. How can you fail when there was no test to begin with? And for a few hours, the sandcastle is the most important thing in the world. It is the child's whole universe. And then, a little wave from the distant ocean slides up the beach, higher than the others. It gently washes over the castle, and the beautiful walls and towers dissolve back into the sand. The seaweed flag is washed away. The shell gate is gone. What does the camel do? The camel, if it had built the castle, would be heartbroken. All my hard work, all that effort, it was all for nothing. It's all ruined. What does the lion do? The lion would be furious. How dare the ocean do this to me? I will roar at the ocean. I will fight the waves. What does the child do? The child watches its creation disappear. It might feel a tiny moment of sadness, but then it laughs. It giggles at the tickle of the water on its toes. The destruction of the castle wasn't a failure. It was just the end of the game. The wave was not an enemy. It was just another player. And now look, the sand is smooth and clean again. It is a blank page, a fresh start, an invitation to play a whole new game tomorrow. This is the secret strength of the child. It is the strength of knowing that nothing is permanent. And because nothing is permanent, you can be light. You can hold your creations, your plans, your very life with an open hand. You can love the process of building, but you don't need the castle to last forever to have enjoyed making it. The art of play is simply this: to find joy in your own creativity, to do things for their own sake, and to have the gentle strength to let go and begin again and again and again. It is the wisdom to know that life isn't a problem to be solved or a battle to be won. It's a sandbox to be played in. As the sun begins to set, the child sits on the smooth, damp sand where the castle once stood. The air is getting cooler. The sky is turning a soft, sleepy purple. The child is not sad that the castle is gone. It is filled with a quiet, happy tiredness. The joy of the day, the fun of the game, is now a warm feeling inside. And in this quiet moment, the child looks back, not with the heavy regret of the camel or the angry pride of the lion. The child looks back with a simple, gentle curiosity. It looks back at the long path of footprints stretching across the desert. Its own footprints. It sees the footprints from today, the light, dancing footprints of a child playing in the sand. And it sees, a little further back, the deep, powerful footprints of the lion, the marks of pacing and searching. And even further back, stretching all the way to the horizon, it sees the slow, steady, heavy footprints of the camel, worn deep into the sand from the great weight it carried. The camel, if it looked back, would feel shame. Look how slow I was. Look how much I carried that I didn't need to. The lion would look back with scorn. Look how weak I was back then. I'm glad I'm not that foolish camel anymore. The child does something different. The child looks at all of those footprints, the whole long, winding path, and it feels love. A quiet, deep, unconditional love for the entire journey. Nietzsche had a special name for this feeling. He used two Latin words, amor fati. It means, quite simply, love your fate. It doesn't mean like your fate. It doesn't mean you have to be happy about all the hard parts or the painful moments. There were days in the desert that were terribly difficult for the camel. There were moments of fear and confusion for the lion. Loving your fate doesn't mean pretending the bad parts weren't bad. It means accepting that the path was the path. All of it. The whole story. It means looking back and not wishing to tear out a single page from the book of your life. The child understands something the camel and the lion could never understand. The camel had to be a camel first. You had to learn how to carry things. You had to learn what duty and responsibility felt like. Without the long, slow journey of the camel, the spirit would never have become tired enough to awaken the lion. The heavy load was not a mistake. It was the first chapter of the story. And the lion had to be a lion. You had to find the strength to roar no. You had to clear the ground. You had to tear down the old walls to discover the beautiful, empty space within. That anger, that frustration, that sacred no. It wasn't a mistake either. It was the second chapter. It was necessary. The camel's patience. The lion's courage. The child's joy. They are not enemies of each other. They are all part of the same person. They are all you. Amor fati is the simple, profound act of looking at your own story with all of its weird twists and turns, all of its embarrassing moments and its beautiful ones, and saying, with a quiet, peaceful heart, yes, that is my story, and I would not have it any other way. Because that story, every single footprint, is what brought me here, to this exact spot, sitting on the sand, watching this beautiful sunset. It is the final act of letting go. You let go of the wish for your past to have been different. You accept it all. You love it, not because it was perfect, but because it was yours. And in that feeling of total acceptance, a new kind of peace settles in. A peace that is deep and unshakable, like the quiet desert under a blanket of stars. The last light of the sun has faded from the sky. The stars are beginning to appear, bright and sharp in the cool desert air. The child is no longer sitting on the sand. It is lying down now, feeling the gentle coolness of the earth beneath it, and looking up at the vast, endless river of stars above. And it remembers. It remembers that heavy feeling. It remembers the feeling from the very beginning of our story. That feeling of being weighed down, of being pressed into the mattress by the memory of the day's long walk. It remembers the ache in the camel's back, the feeling of the straps, the constant, dull pressure of the load. For the camel, strength meant endurance. It was the ability to bear weight. To be strong meant to be heavy, to be solid, to be able to withstand pressure. The camel's whole body was tense, braced for the next burden. Even at rest, it was never truly resting. It was just gathering its strength to pick up the load again tomorrow. The child, lying here now, feels its own body. And it feels light. It's not a frantic, floaty lightness. It's a deep, peaceful lightness. A settled lightness. It's the feeling of a boat that has finally untied itself from the heavy anchor and is now just gently floating on calm, quiet water. The child feels the ground supporting it completely. It doesn't have to hold itself up. It can let go. It can be held. This is the new strength. The strength of the child. It is the strength of being light. What does that mean? It means you don't have to carry your thoughts around like heavy rocks. The child watches thoughts drift by like clouds in the sky. A worried thought might appear, a cloud in the shape of a scary monster. The camel would have seen that cloud and immediately started preparing for a storm. The lion would have seen it and roared at it, trying to scare it away. The child just watches it. It sees the monster's shape, and with a gentle puff of wind, the cloud changes. It becomes a sheep, then a wisp of smoke. Then it's gone. The child knows that thoughts are not solid things. You don't have to pick them up. You can just let them float by. Being light, means you don't have to carry the weight of other people's moods. The camel was like a sponge. If someone nearby was sad or angry, the camel would soak it all up, and soon it would be sad or angry too. It felt like its duty to carry their feelings for them. The child is not a sponge. It's more like a smooth, clear stone in a river. The water of other people's emotions can flow around it, but it doesn't have to become the water. The child can feel compassion, it can feel love, but it doesn't have to take on the weight. It can remain itself, calm and steady, in the middle of the stream. And being light means you don't have to carry the weight of being right all the time. The lion loved to be right. Being right was a sign of its strength. It would argue and fight to prove its point. The child doesn't mind being wrong. Being wrong is just an opportunity to learn something new. It doesn't see conversations as battles to be won, but as games to be played, a dance of ideas. There is no heavy burden of ego to defend. As you lie here, in your bed, you can feel this lightness too. Feel the places where your body is touching the mattress. And in those places, just let go a little more. Imagine that heavy old backpack of the camel, full of all those rocks and all that sand, just sitting on the floor. You don't have to pick it up. You don't have to even think about it. You can just be here, now, feeling the simple, wonderful lightness of your own breath. In and out, in and out. This is the strength of the child. It is the quiet, powerful, and deeply restful strength of simply letting go. And so here we are, lying in the deep, peaceful quiet at the end of our long journey. The child is resting under a vast blanket of stars in the silent desert. And you are resting here, in the quiet comfort of your own bed. The story is over, and now we can just feel what it has left behind. That question we started with, all that time ago, where do we find strength? The secret, the beautiful and simple truth, is that you were never looking for it. It was never lost. It was with you the entire time. It was inside you all along. It was just changing. It was growing and transforming, like a seed turning into a sprout and then a flower. You already had everything you needed. Think of the camel. The strength you had in that part of your life was so real and so important. It was the strength of foundation. It was the quiet dignity of endurance, the power to show up even when you were tired, to carry what needed to be carried. It was the strength of being a person who could be relied upon, a person who understood duty and responsibility. That strength was not a mistake. It was not weakness. It was the solid ground you built everything else upon. You should look back on the camel part of your journey with nothing but deep respect and a gentle kindness. It was the strong and patient heart that carried you through the longest deserts. Then, when the time was right, that solid strength began to change. It had to. The ground was built, and now something needed to grow. So your strength transformed into the fire of the lion. This was the strength of courage. The strength to finally look at your heavy load and ask, why? It was the power to protect the garden of your own soul. The power to build a fence and close the gate. The strength to roar that sacred, silent no. That fire was not a mistake. It was not simple anger. It was the necessary fire that clears away the old, dead wood to make room for new life. It was the beautiful and terrifying strength that set you free. And now, your strength is changing again. The fire has done its job. The ground is clear. And now the strength can soften, becoming the gentle, life-giving rain. It is transforming into the strength of the child. This is the strength of lightness, the strength of resilience, the kind of strength a blade of grass has that can bend in the wind without breaking. It is the wisdom of play, the power to create your own joy out of nothing at all. It is the profound strength of letting go, of loving your own story, of knowing how to begin again every single day. Your strength was never just one thing. It is not a heavy rock that you either have or you don't. Think of it more like a river. Your river. At the beginning, in the high mountains, it was a small, determined stream, like the camel, following the path laid out for it. Then, as it grew, It became a powerful, rushing river, carving its own path through stone, crashing and roaring like the lion. And now, as it gets closer to the great, peaceful ocean, it is widening, slowing down. It is becoming a broad, gentle river, reflecting the sky, accepting everything into its waters, like the child. It is all the same river. It is all the same strength. It is all you. The strength you were hoping to find was never out there somewhere. It is here. It is the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breath, rising and falling without any effort. It is the gentle, faithful beat of your own heart, drumming softly in your chest. It is the simple fact that you are here, now, resting at the end of another day. That great strength, the foundation of the camel, the fire of the lion, and the lightness of the child, it all lives inside you. And right now, it is doing what you are doing. It is getting quiet. It is resting. It is gathering its energy in the stillness, ready to become whatever shape it needs to be for you tomorrow. But tomorrow is another story. You don't have to think about it now. Now is just for this, for the quiet, for the dark, for the deep and peaceful rest you so richly deserve. Your strength is sleeping, and so can you. So now, you can let the story go. Let the camel and the lion and the child all fade away. Let them walk off into the quiet, starry desert of your dreams. You don't need to hold on to any of it. The story has done its job. It was just a little boat to help you float away from the busy shore of your day, out into the calm, quiet, deep waters of sleep. There is nothing left to do now, nothing left to figure out, nothing left to solve. You can let all the thoughts of the day dissolve, just like that sand castle washed away by the gentle evening tide. If any of them are important, they will come back to you tomorrow. But for now, the sand is smooth. The page is blank. The slate is clean. Just bring your attention, ever so gently, to the feeling of your own breath. That simple, automatic rhythm. The quietest song in the world, playing just for you. There is no need to change it. Just notice it. Feel the gentle rise of your chest as you breathe in, and the soft release as you breathe out. With every breath out, you are letting go just a little bit more, sinking just a little deeper, getting a little heavier in the most wonderful, comforting way, sinking into your mattress, sinking into stillness, sinking into peace. Your mind has permission to wander now, to drift and float wherever it wants to go. Your body has permission to get heavy and soft, and to fall into a deep and restful sleep. And you have permission to just be here, to rest, deeply, peacefully, all through the night. Thank you for listening. Sleep well.
you.